This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details. Van.
Into the final hour, it's 11:08. Here's Kevin Lynch, formerly Mr. Basketball in the state of Minnesota, played in the NBA, analyzes basketball, assumedly for profit for the FanDuel TV bit, which I can never remember the name because it has like 19 words in it. And the Wolves have a big game against the Memphis Grizzlies this evening. Off dismay, a deflating situation, and quite honestly, an embarrassing fourth quarter against Milwaukee. And here's Kevin. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. How you doing?
Pretty good. Let's just get the necessary evil out of the way because I haven't texted with you about it or talked to you about it like away from the radio or on the radio. But the fourth quarter at Milwaukee, Jaden McDaniels had to be taken out of the game. You have to take him out of the game because whether it's personal, professional, he's pear-shaped. Something's not just wrong, extremely wrong, so that we can't play you. And we love you. We paid you. Maybe we'll pay you again, but we got to put you on the bench because the soft passes, the lack of conviction, okay? So that's just one part. And then Julius Randle, okay? God bless him. I mean, you can run forward 3 steps one time to bail out Jaden as opposed to just waiting there and watching somebody pick it off and go the other way. That Anthony trying to, hit 3-pointers that he thinks are worth 20 points. Yeah. Gobert, he hasn't, I don't know if he finished with a double-double in the game. I don't look at the box score. But he had a double-double every game for weeks or something like that. Well, he's getting beat for every rebound in the final 6-5 minutes as this thing was evaporating. Yeah. I'm not a best ever, worst ever kind of guy. I'm just not. Honestly, I can't ever remember seeing an onslaught like I saw in that fourth quarter with we've seen 24-point leads blown. We've all seen that somehow, some way. The way it was blown, I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. What was your take? And good morning.
It was just an avalanche of mistakes and bad passes and quick shots, bad threes, and it's interesting. I went back to look at some of those turnovers at the end of the game, and it's you look at NBA defenses, from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and it's everything kind of centered around stopping the big man inside. It was just not a lot of space to drive, because the defenses were kind of built to guard what was happening in the lane. And you look at what happened the other night, it was defenses, it's flipped. You got defenses that just sit at the 3-point line in a zone, just stretched out, and you can pause it at a variety of different places in that fourth quarter when things started to go, as you say, pear-shaped. And there's so much room in the lane is wide open. And Milwaukee's defense in their zone was just guarding the 3, and the Wolves just kept jacking threes and just sloppy, bad passes and decisions. And it was not good. That was an epic loss. That was really a painful one to watch. And
who was your coach? Alan Bristow?
Alan Bristow.
Oh wow! Alan Bristow nailed it. I was kind of guessing there.
You and I have talked about that before. Yeah.
Okay, so you had Alan Bristow at the U. You had Clem, right?
Right.
All right, and at high school you had whomever. So
Jack Evans.
Jack Evans. So if a situation like that, an abnormal situation happens, maybe you never faced him, at a key time of the year where you're desperate for certain things to go the right way, Finch, clearly Finch and the coaches took the approach of, we got 3 to go. And Thursday's massive. it's even bigger now than it was supposed to be.
Right.
The last thing we want to do is chew these kids up. The last thing we want to do is start beating people down and get into them super hard.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a generational thing. I don't know. But, the common thread with the press conferences after the game and the locker room interviews was like, no, not a lot of yelling. Yeah, it's embarrassing. I'm paraphrasing. But, we have a game that's important in 2 days. So that happened. Let's not dwell on it, and let's move on to the next one. Anthony Edwards called it a must-win game tonight, and he's kind of doubled down on that. So, the high-enders put pressure on themselves when they do that, and they love that. They thrive on that. And Anthony's one of them. But have you ever, encountered a situation where you knew it was unbelievably bad, thought you were going to get chewed out, thought you were going to maybe get benched, and then all of a sudden it's like, nope, we're not going to dwell on it. Let's learn from it and move on.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, in high school,
not,
no. In high school, we won so much that it was it didn't go that way. I barely lost games in 3 years in high school.
Wow.
But in college, playing for Clem was the type of guy who would. I mean, he would verbally rip you to pieces. I mean, you can't believe. In fact, you couldn't coach the same way like he did back in those days and say the same things and do the same things.
Yep.
And he was a type of guy where if you collapsed like the Wolves did the other night, he would just let you have it. He would rip you apart, and you got to pull yourself together, and the team has to pull themselves together for the next performance. So I can't really relate to that in some ways because to have such a disastrous loss and to be up 24 with 10 minutes to go in the game and then to lose it and to lose by 7, so a 31-point swing in 10 minutes.
They got outscored 35-8.
Yeah, that was, and to handle it like Finch did and like the players are talking about, let's move on to the next one, it didn't make a big deal out of it. That's kind of something I can't relate to.
Yeah. Yeah, but what's the alternative? Generationally or not?
Right.
With now, I mean, if we have 30 to go as opposed to 3,
right.
And Finch, I don't think by nature is a yeller, but he's like the surrogate dad or he's like the coach. When he does yell, everybody listens.
Right.
Because, he has this, maybe it's changed a little bit over the last year or whatever, but he's had this art of the balance of handling Anthony Edwards, where it's like, I remember somewhere last year, he got into Ant to the media, okay, like his post-game press conference. Hero ball, this, that. All right, media doing its job, excited to scurry to the locker room. Chris just said this, your thoughts? Well, he's right. We talk about it all the time. I can't do that. I did it. I don't know why I did it, but I did it. And Chris is right, and we talk about that all the time. That's so hard to have a relationship like that with your superstar, where you got some surrogate dad, some boss, and some coach to you. So, Chris, that's Chris with Anthony. But I mean, this, it's. I just don't know, like when you crack the whip, when you don't crack the whip, and how much should it be accepted that if you do crack the whip, being like, what do you say? I don't even know what you say at this stage of the season off what happened the other night. Because they'll tune you out, and that's a concern.
Yeah, one thing I think good coaches do, especially at that level, and I'm sure Finch does this. I think Chris Finch is a good coach. I think he sits down with players individually, one-on-one, so the player is away from all his buddies or his teammates, and they sit down and they get to know each other. Phil Jackson did a good job of this with Jordan. When Jordan's popularity was global, he made sure that he would sit down with Jordan just one-on-one, quietly in his office and get to know him and kind of take the player's temperature a little bit of hey, when you screw up, I got to get on you a little bit, whether it's Edwards or whether it's Jordan, McLaughlin or whoever, you got to let these guys know that I have to get on you at times. And it seems like Edwards handles that pretty well. I've been at practices where Finch has gotten on certain players and he rips them apart pretty good. So he'll do that.
Yeah.
But I think establishing the relationship away from everybody else, where it's just one-on-one, that's kind of important. So at moments like this, when he gets on his guys or a particular player, I think that's important.
See, and like after the game, Chris, after the Milwaukee game, he was like, I have to do a better job of getting them better shots.
Right.
Okay, whatever, man. I mean, I'm not speaking for Chris at all, and I haven't talked to him about it. He can't possibly believe that in his heart. And here's why. Because you can call a play. How frequently do these people run plays? Okay, you call a play, but guess what? Milwaukee gets to play defense too. So if they take away the A option, now you're relying on the kids to run the tentacles, run the beat. Let's think passing game. Picks down, flash in the key, come back out. I want to hit that guy on the elbow, and then I'm going to get somebody down low. Oh, wow, they took 2 away. Okay, well, that now becomes, Rob, give me a pick. And you see what I'm saying?
Right.
So I like what Chris did in that he took the attention and put it on himself. It was attention deflection. I have to do a better job of getting these guys shots. He has to know in his heart that he can call whatever play he wants to play. The majority of the time, things are going to break down, and players are going to use their will to get what they want.
Yeah, you know, one thing that's really happened in the NBA, say the last 10, 15 years, it seems like coaches run less plays because it's harder to scout when you're an opponent when you don't know what's going to happen. You can sit and run an opponent's plays. Well, they're going to, Minnesota's going to do this with Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle.
Yeah.
But when you have kind of a freelance, let the players decide how it's all going to shake out, then you can't really prepare for that. So, like Finch does a lot of that. He wants to get away from running plays.
Yeah.
It's harder to prepare for, as an opponent for a team like that. So, but then it gets difficult when you really need to execute a play, but you haven't been doing that much all season. So that makes it tough at those times.
Did you did you work the Philly game? Were you doing pre-post that game?
No, I didn't. But I watched the game.
Okay. Well, when it gets into calling plays, and I had Chris on earlier this season, and we were joking around about friends and family, given he's from that area. It's like the worst thing in the world you can do, man, is like lose a game. Well, losing games this time of the year is bad because of this play-in thing.
Right.
But, I mean, when you got friends and family there, and there's no Paul George, Joel Embiid, Allen Iverson, Caldwell Jones, or whomever, you don't want to lose that game. And those Sixers played hard. They played really hard.
Right.
Quentin Grimes, who knew where all this came from with Quentin Grimes? But nevertheless, it's a spine tingler. It's, he when we were talking about the game winner that Edwards hit on the inbound play, and he's like, Anthony hit a hero ball shot. It's okay. He did. I was just kind of wondering, what was the play? I mean, because you threw it right into Anthony. Okay. Did we not expect a double? He's Anthony Edwards. And by the way, if you can double somebody by the out of bounds stripe, by the out of bounds line, that's preferred because there's only one way to go. And they took that away. So he had to huff and puff and get his feet straight, and boom, he goes up and he hits the shot and they win the game. I was just kind of wondering, I've heard the hero ball stuff with Anthony before, but he had to be the hero there because there was nowhere to go. Like that, I just wonder what the play was there, or what he's supposed to do when you throw it into somebody and they get doubled by the out of bounds line and the game's almost over. Games on the line, it couldn't have been the play.
Well, that's kind of the balance with Edwards always. It's like you got to give the guy freedom because he's one of the best ISO 1-on-1 guys in the NBA. At the same time, moving the basketball is kind of good for your offense, obviously. When the Wolves move the ball, then everybody becomes dangerous. But when you don't, it's just Edwards isolating all the time. Yeah. So that's always the kind of the balance when it comes to Anthony Edwards as a scorer.
Right. Kevin Lynch analyzes Minnesota Timberwolves basketball for profit as part of the FanDuel TV family. 8:30 tonight. It's a TNT game, I believe. You can listen to it on KFAN with Alan Horton on lead vocals. They take on the Memphis Grizzlies, and the play-in situation, getting out of that, getting that 6th seed, where you'll get Luka and LeBron, by the way, most likely. Denver won at Sacramento first without Malone. We'll get into that momentarily. But the play-in situation's so weird. It's like Sunday, the Wolves didn't even play. Houston beats Golden State, and we dropped so it's like one of the teams in front of you lost, but because of the head-to-head, they dropped. So San Antonio beat Golden State last night.
That's right.
As an 18-point underdog. Holy cow. So now you got Memphis. We have an aggressive coaching change that came out of nowhere. Denver, aggressive coaching change came out of nowhere. And the person replacing Mike Malone, I'm pretty sure David Adelman,
right.
Elite basketball mind. I mean, I've known David for about 15 years. Used to come on the radio show occasionally.
Hey.
Rick's kid.
Yeah.
Met him when he was an assistant, not for Flip, but he was an assistant here for a while.
With his dad.
But then who was after that? But David Adelman is an elite basketball mind. So he's the interim coach for the Nuggets. And you just knew for the Nuggets in their first game after somebody gets fired, they're going to fire a bullet. And they won on the road last night against Sacramento. So that's tight. It's where the Lakers went to Dallas, brought Luka to Dallas, and just, if those fans down there haven't had enough, I mean, with this trade and, okay, now you're going to sell. Now the general manager can't even sit in his normal seat because he gets people throwing stuff at him,
threatening his life,
and calling him weird names. So he can't even watch games in his normal seat. He has to put on like a Groucho Marx get up just to go watch
fake nose and sunglasses
and fake eyebrow brows just to watch his team play. And so then they get over it and they're like, cool. You know what? Okay, we're going to believe your vision here. We got Kyrie here. And we got Lively and Gafford and Anthony Davis and P.J. Washington hitting all those threes in the corner. Well, then Lively and Gafford basically die, and they're out. They're out for a month and change. You can't find them for the rehab.
Witness protection program.
Well, now they're both back. Cool. Well, then P.J. Washington is in and out for weeks, and then Irving's lost for the year.
Yeah.
So these fans have been through so much with this team. Of course, Luka rolls in there last night and just beats them. So they've been through a lot. But that's the team. If you get the 6, you're probably going to get Luka and LeBron. What do you think of that?
After what happened with Dallas last spring, that's probably not a good. I mean, you want to get that 6 spot. That'd be great. But
the difference here is that you'll have time off up to it.
Yeah.
The Wolves, I mean, it basically was they win in 7 games? Yeah, Denver, 7 games, right?
Yeah, the Denver series, 7 games.
Okay, then you get like a day, and then now you're going to play Luka and Kyrie. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
So they would get time.
Let me say this about that trade. I'm kind of curious to know what you think about that Doncic to the Lakers. I actually, when it happened, because I'm not a huge Doncic fan. He's a really good offensive player, but he's arrogant and he's such a cocky guy, which some of that is okay, but I just get tired of it. But let me say this about Dallas. If they can, and this is what I said right after the trade, if they can get healthy Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, and the other big guys, they could be a real factor. But, if it's going to be a one-sided deal, if Davis is always out and Irving can't become the same player he was before after this knee injury and everybody else. So, but I would like Dallas if they're healthy. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Like them, you mean overall in the West?
I think they'd be a top 4 team in the West when healthy throughout a season.
Yeah, I can't go there. But I'm closer to what you're saying than a lot of people were. It's like if you can get Kyrie Irving to penetrate, and you get what you got Klay Thompson or the skeletal remains thereof. I understand. So you got some shooters. You got some Brandon Williams. I mean, names that a lot of people don't know. Some Hammond Eggers who can hit shots. And if you miss them, well, with PJ, Lively, Gafford, and or Anthony Davis, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that a lot. Big bodies. It's like the NBA version of a powerhouse running game. It's like playing Lamar Jackson and the Ravens.
Right.
They're going to beat you up so much that by the time it gets to the fourth quarter, you're going to be tired. So I appreciated that approach. Still, I like Luka with LeBron because LeBron has what Kyrie doesn't. He just has more cachet. He just, in this cachet-related world where image matters way too much, when LeBron barks at Luka, he's going to be more apt to listen than if Kyrie or Jason Kidd got into him because of the rings, and I can show you the rings, and you don't have these, and I do, and you didn't have them there, and I got them. Well, that stuff matters with these kids. You know that. So I need you to get on the treadmill. Need you to get on the Peloton. Need you to do some curls. Need you to lay off all the candy or all the fattening food. And we're going to go on and win a championship together. So if you want, and by the way, LeBron could have said, and the kid over there, Austin Reeves, he's better than you think. Okay,
yeah,
and with
he's had a good season.
Well, right, and since Luka got there, all the shots are wide open. Okay, now the other kid, the rookie, who people mix up for Reeves, well, he can't play. But that doesn't mean Connect won't be able to play forever. He just can't play now. So we ain't counting on him. So don't look at his college videos because that ain't him. This kid over there wears the goggles. You got no idea who he is. Gabe Vincent. Well, we're pulling things out of him nobody ever thought anybody would get. Same thing from Jackson Hayes. It's all LeBron. It's LeBron has that cachet. It's like when Favre was here in 2009. The kids grew up watching him, loving him. Then they're playing with him. Percy Harvin, Sidney Rice, Adrian Peterson, and so on. And then it's like, we can't let surrogate dad down. Oh, by the way, he's incredibly good, and he's right at the end. So the impossible to get but cliched 110%, got it every single play from all the key guys. That's what's happening in Los Angeles. And they absolutely can get to the NBA Finals.
I was just going to ask you that.
They can. Yeah, they can. But well, you know why? And what leads to that? The freaking refs. Okay, it's the NBA officiating, like NFL officiating, never has been worse. Okay, it's there. I've talked about this about the NFL before because there are obviously there's a referee, then you got the umpire and the side judge and all that. Well, it's the influx of, let's just say, some of the hirings that have taken place the last 5 years in the NFL. There are some awful officials. Okay, now there's one referee named Trey Blake who single-handedly screwed up the Indianapolis Vikings game. Vikings down 33-0 at halftime. I mean, Stephon Gilmore, former Viking, should have been thrown out of a game for nearly decapitating Justin Jefferson right in front of Trey Blake, and it was after the whistle. You know, but it's a flag, 15 yards, whatever. Stupid things like that. Remember the Vikings and Rams last season, Thursday Night Football, Darnold face mask. Now, the Vikings probably wouldn't win the game. Darnold's in the end zone. Desperate times, got to go down the field, get 8 points or whatever. It's a long shot. But some cat, Byron Young or something like that, for the Rams, comes rushing in, grabs Darnold's face mask, turns his head completely around. Well, this idiot, Trey Blake, and another old school official are looking right at it. No flag. Trey Blake has been demoted, okay, as of this week. He's been demoted from referee to like a side judge. So there just have been a bevy of newer names that have come into the NFL as officials.
Yeah.
It's never been worse. And it never, ever, it's the worst officiating in the most popular game in the history of the National Football League right now. And I can say that because I'm at all the games, I talk to all the right people, and I watch other games. NBA is kind of the same, but it's different because you know what? With specifically the ladies, man, and I don't get into the metrics as to whether the female officials who have come into the league, whether they do good work or bad work, but I've been to enough games to hear some of the things these idiots say to these women refs or the refs, period. Well, you know what? I'd click on you too. Okay, if I constantly am hearing this awful stuff that you're saying. So they restrain a lot. But then there's a breaking point where you just aren't going to get any calls because you've just beaten them down too much, man. Then you get to Luka and LeBron. They're not like that, but they're Luka and LeBron. And these refs are so beaten down by so much, they're afraid to make a big call in a nationally televised game against LeBron James and or Luka Doncic. They're just afraid because they've been beaten down so much. So that plays, in my opinion, it's all my opinion, it plays into, I believe that I'm not accusing people of fixing games. Okay, we're not going Donaghy on this. I'm just saying human nature gets to win too. And these guys, they get a majority of the calls, like SGA. SGA gets a lot of calls, man.
Yeah, you know what that makes me think of is Draymond Green. And you and I have talked a little bit about Draymond Green. I think Draymond Green, who's been a good player, people think at times
ridiculous.
People have said, he's an MVP candidate. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? There's no way. But my point is with bringing his name up is I think, and obviously I can't go back to the 40s and 50s and 60s and what was going on in the NBA back in those days.
Earl Strom, though.
Yeah, exactly. Dick Bavetta.
Yeah.
Guys, Draymond Green to me is the most disrespectful player I've ever witnessed in the NBA.
Not going to argue. Nick Van Exel right behind him.
Yeah, maybe. But Draymond Green kicking opponents, punching opponents, tripping opponents. He's the only player in NBA history to get suspended in an NBA Finals game. Mm-hmm. But that's not the worst stuff. The worst stuff is every single time he makes a basket, he turns to the and one.
Yeah,
he's all this, and he's constantly dropping F-bombs. Yep. It's hard to watch.
Let's take it a step farther. And we need to break.
So beaten down, I get it.
I want to take it a step farther with Draymond. All right, so Draymond gets all these T's. We got the kicking and just everything. Well, he's so unconsolable. He's so downtrodden. He's so sad that, remember, he threatened to quit. He threatened to retire. Okay?
Missed opportunity. That's too bad.
Well, you know what? You know why he didn't? The commissioner, Adam Silver, brought him in to sit down and talk with him. Really, does everybody get that opportunity? Does everybody get that opportunity when they're going through something, Adam? That was the biggest freaking sham ever. All right? You're going to bring him in, the commissioner of the game, and sit down with a player for somebody's team and talk to him because he can't control himself and he's immature? So that's where it's all going. It's with the NFL, man, with they're just not referees, okay? There are officials that are skipping levels. It used to be, not everything has to be Bernie Kukar. Okay, I'm going to start at St. John's, and then I'm going to go here, and I'm going to work the Big Ten for 15 years, and the MIAC for 13 years, and then I might get a chance to be an umpire, see?
Right.
It doesn't have to be that. Okay, but let's hire on merit. Let's hire on merit from film, from what you see, and they're good, and they put in their time at proper levels in proper games so they don't freak out while handling pressure. All right, we'll be right back. So, what do you think about tonight? Jalen Wells, that nice rookie for Memphis, broke his wrist the other night. KJ Simpson for Charlotte got tangled up with him. He goes down. So no Jalen Wells. Ja Morant, Desmond Bain, Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr., Zach Edey has caught fire of late, had like a 19-rebound game the other day.
Yeah.
So the big boys coming together. What we saw with the Wolves the last time, but they'll be different tonight. What do you expect tonight?
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm working tonight, so it's going to be interesting to see how the Wolves start the game.
Oh, you guys got the game too when TNT has it.
Yes.
Oh, sweet.
Yes, tonight we do. Yeah, you're right. Typically we don't work when it's a TNT game, but tonight we are. But just the start of the game after how it ended the other night in Milwaukee is going to be interesting. Ja Morant has not played great in the two games that these teams have played earlier this year in January. So to see, but Jaren Jackson Jr. has been just crushing the Wolves in two games. So it's the start of the game will be interesting to see how the Wolves can kind of pull it together.
Mm-hmm. And for them to pull it together, I've just in closing here, I've had this take, back in my mind, which I do still believe, despite the Milwaukee game, is I think Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards together, with the way basketball changes in the postseason compared to the regular season, more of an isolation game, more of a pick and roll game. Would you agree? It's just more of an aggressive.
It's half court. It's more of a half court game.
Game. Thank you. Perfectly put.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think Julius and Anthony together are meant for that. I think they're made for that when it slows down like that, because Julius is so tough to stop when he's free throw line extended in.
Yeah.
So I kind of think that duo there's made for the postseason. You just got to get there and get into the right spot. But this is kind of a playoff type game tonight. So if I mean, hopefully they don't think playing racehorse basketball or running up and down the court with John Morant's the way to win tonight.
Yeah, in fact, I was just looking at the pace. Memphis leads the NBA in pace, so they try to play fast. And the Wolves are one of the slower teams in the NBA. They're 25th out of 30 teams. So it's going to be. And Morant is going to have a good game tonight. He's going to play the best, I think, out of the 3 games here because so much is on the line for the Grizzlies too. Yeah. So and the tough thing is you start looking at standings. Wolves are 8th. Golden State has the tiebreaker with Minnesota, and they're 7th. And then Memphis at 6 also has the tiebreaker against the Wolves. So it's looking tough.
Yeah. Let me close with this 30 seconds. You get it all. Corey Chavis. Who loves the NBA. Favorite team is the Pistons, former Viking safety. He joins every so often, really smart about the NFL draft. He and I were on the phone yesterday. It's like the last thing I want to do in my life is have 25-minute phone conversations, but that's the average with Corey, and I enjoy every single minute of it. So every time Corey and I talk on the phone, it's that long. One of the topics we got into yesterday, top 3 point guards in the NBA. I didn't bring it up on the radio today. See, I'm eliminating Luka and Steph from the conversation because LeBron handles it every bit as much as Luka, the Podzinski, whatever, Jimmy handles it. Yeah, I'm talking true points here, which John Morant is. I went SGA, Cade Cunningham.
Ooh, look at you.
And Jalen Brunson. Those maybe Tyrese Maxey. But I didn't have Ja in the top 4. You can't trust Ja from 3 and he's always hurt.
I would put Gilgeous-Alexander. I would put Jalen Brunson. I didn't even think about him.
Cade Cunningham, though.
I'd put Brunson for sure. Gilgeous-Alexander, Cunningham. I just haven't seen him play enough to really put him on my top 3 at this point. But who else would be there?
Tyrese Maxey.
Maybe.
There are a lot of teams that don't have true points.
I know that's the weird thing.
Maybe Scoot Henderson.
Alfred Payton. I remember you used to love Alfred Payton with that weird hairdo with the magic, and that guy turned out to be nothing.
Yeah. Stop. He's still in the league.
Yes, he is. Okay. I think he went overseas and then he came back.
You can't say somebody's nothing when they're still collecting on the pension.
Okay, there we go.
Got it? All right. Love you, bud. Have a good day.
Thanks, man.
Kevin Lynch, 9 to noon continues after that. Capra's off, you say.
Capra's off.
All right, well, best of luck to the Wild tomorrow night with Capra's off against Calgary. Best of luck to the Hal this evening against Memphis, 8:30 on KFAN.
Joel Eriksson X goals last night, tremendous.
It's Eriksson Eek.
It is.
His first name's Jewel, and his last name's Eriksson Eek.
Okay,
all right.
Writing that down.
And wonderful game last night, too, by Michael Baldy. I mean, I think he had 4 assists. All right, best of luck to everybody. Thank you very much for listening to 9 to noon when you do, and I'm Paul Allen. Friday Football Feast tomorrow includes Field Yates from ESPN on the NFL Draft. Make sure you listen at 9. Here's Nordo with the wrap on the show.
Big boy's back!
Now, what did I do wrong?
Just listen. Just listen.
The game is over.
Man, kicking off the show with Chavis, as far as draft opinions go, he's here to save us. Pick 24, right answer's a long, winding road. Just ask Corey and proceeded to download. And on the how, Hasseltine and Lynch need a bounce back for the Wolves and Chris Finch. All these games are clutch. Time for Ant to show spine. Limit Bain and Morant. No finger gun signs. Lieber's here. He's always lifting the lid, hitting us with structures found under the pyramids, eventually smashing the draft with tight ends and Gray Zabel. I subscribe to Burst's YouTube channel. No need for cable. Now tomorrow, some more football fare. Greenway, Alec Lewis, Field Yates, and Charches Hair. It's like a magic guy. The more you see, the longer you stare. But elite draft opinions to chew on, so beware.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.